former prosecutor Wendy Murphy and defense attorney Ginny Walia. Wendy, what's your gut tell you about this whole thing?
Boy, John, I hate to speculate. Well, actually, I don't mind speculating a little bit, as long as it's clear this is guesswork. There's so much we don't know yet. But I'm suspicious that the wife isn't talking more. I know she's in mourning. I'm sure she's sad. But, if this was my husband, if this was my honeymoon, I'd be out there. I'd be on the news like Natalie Holloway's mother. I'd be exploiting the media coverage in this case, begging people to help. I'd be pounding the pavement, hitting the airwaves. Why is she so silent? Silence always bugs me. Even though she may be grieving, I'm suspicious of her. I'm not saying she's involved, but I want to hear more from her, and the fact that she's in hiding really bugs me.
Jenny, when you're a defense attorney, when you look at the fact that blood apparently was removed from the carpet inside the cabin, this crime scene, or I don't want to say it's a crime scene, but it seems this area was not protected. It doesn't seem as though there was any professional early on the onset, people looking at this thing in a professional manner. Does this lead you to believe that there will be no prosecution here if something really happened to this guy that was violent?
I think that there could be prosecution once the DNA evidence results come back. They need to figure out whose blood it is. The Turkish government has asked for DNA samples from the family members of Smith's family, and if they find other passengers' blood on it, no one else is missing, sure, there could be a successful prosecution here. But I want to disagree with the fact that the wife has something to do with it because she's not talking. She's talking to the authorities, she's not talking to the media, and I think she's a smart woman for doing so because she could very easily become a suspect with some minor inconsistencies.
You really don't know what she's saying. I mean, you have no business saying she's cooperating with authorities. There is absolutely no evidence that she's telling them the truth, that she hasn't taken the fifth, hired a criminal defense attorney. And you're right, in a court of law, we can't hold that against her. The jury can't, but I can. In the court of public opinion, I can and I will. So you shouldn't speculate about whether she's off the hook because she's silent.
She talked to the Turkish authorities, and they said that she's not a suspect any longer. That allows me to think that she must have said something about the incident.
Wendy, how do you...
I don't think you can give her a pass.
You hear all these reports. You got somebody in a next-door cabin saying they heard voices in the middle of the night. You got people that are going to be down in that casino who saw them drinking, all this alcohol involved. How do you separate fact from fiction? Somebody says, I heard a bump in the night. I mean, how do you ultimately determine whether these people have any credibility?
Yeah, well, let's assume they're all telling the truth when they say they heard some kind of bump at 3 in the morning. I assume they're telling the truth. These are citizens presumably with no axe to grind at this point. What I think is interesting is that the first round of noise that has been reported is that there were voices from men, raised voices, some kind of confrontation, and it was all male voices. Then the male voices left. And the next thing you assume from the reports is that it was just him there, presumably with his new bride. And then that's when the big loud thunk is described as occurring, some kind of drop of, so loud it sounded like furniture falling on cement. And then this incident with something that happened that caused bleeding to occur outside their window, over the awning outside their cruise ship room. I mean, that's interesting, isn't it, that thunk happened after those male voices having a fight of some sort actually left, and presumably the wife was there.
Yeah.
What is that about?
Well, I don't know. I know this. If something like that had happened to my spouse, I would be yelling and screaming. But, you never know. We thought because Jennifer Wilbank's fiance did not want to take a lie detector test, he was guilty, and we find out, of course, she was on a Greyhound bus on the other side of the country. You never know. You have people the benefit of the doubt, but I want to thank you, Wendy, for coming on. I want to thank you also, Ginny. All right, coming up, who will be the Heartland Hero of the Week? Well, that's next.